Hi, I hope you're well today. In last week's video, I introduced the concept of the 3 Ps: protect yourself, plan, and prepare, to give you an idea of how to help yourself navigate more safely and confidently through Christmas and New Year sober. And in this week's video, I'm going to share with you exactly how I went about protecting myself and to share some tips and advice on how you can go about protecting yourself over Christmas and New Year, because this is a really important part of staying sober. So the first thing to do to protect yourself is to actually think in advance, is to plan ahead and to come to a conclusion or an understanding about the things that you're happy to attend over Christmas and New Year and the things you want to say no to. Saying no to social gatherings and events over Christmas and New Year is a really crucial part of protecting yourself. You really need to get confident with saying no, because it's only by saying no that you're going to protect yourself from those situations that are going to be just too challenging for you, too difficult for you, not enjoyable enough, and just too much hard work. So what I did is I worked out that first Christmas I spent sober, I sat down with a pen and paper and I listed all of the potential invitations I was going to get. I listed all of the different events that were coming up that I would ordinarily have gone to, that I would ordinarily have been invited to. And I just listed them all. And then what I did was I planned which of those events that I wanted to say no to, which of those events that I just were too much for me, that I would find too challenging. And in the end, I came away from that list with 3 that I'd ticked. Out of about 20, I came away with 3 that I'd ticked that I was saying yes to. And all of the others I was saying no to. So I was saying no to going up to the local pub for the Christmas Eve celebrations with my boyfriend and some friends. Said no to that. Said no to New Year's Eve up at the local pub with my boyfriend and friends. I said no to 3 or 4 different gigs that my boyfriend and friends were going to. I said no to loads of things that I just felt I couldn't face without getting drunk. And I said yes to the 3 things that were actually important to me to attend. So I said yes to the Christmas Day meal at my parents' house with the rest of my family. That was really important to me because I don't get to see my family very often. And I wanted to see my family. I knew it was going to be hard work to do it sober when my routine and my unconscious programming was to get drunk while I was there. But I knew that it was something that I wanted to go to and that I needed to push myself into managing sober. And I knew I could prepare for it and plan for it and practice for it. I knew it was something I could get through. I knew it was something I could manage sober. So I decided to say yes to that. I decided to say yes to my boyfriend's work's Christmas party because that was super important for him. And I decided to say yes to a meal out with some old colleagues of mine. So I had my list of things that I was saying yes to, and I had a massive long list of everything I was saying no to. And this is my point. The point is that you need to protect yourself by learning to say no. Say no to all of those events, all of those invitations that you know are going to be too challenging for you, and only say yes to the few that you think it's important for you to go to and that you can manage sober. And that brings me on to my second point about protecting yourself. It's important that you allow yourself to hide away when you need to. It was really unusual for me to say no to going up to the local pub with my boyfriend and friends. This was an unusual thing. But the thing was that every time I went to the pub with my boyfriend and his friends, I would get drunk. That was what I would do. I would drink too much. We'd all have a laugh. We'd all end up coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning and having a really crap night's sleep and feeling awful the next day. That was my pattern. And the whole thing about when that's been your pattern for years and years and years, or for a substantial amount of time, you need to break the pattern. And sometimes one way of breaking the pattern is to do something completely differently. And because if this is your first Christmas and New Year sober, because this is new and because there are so many patterns and routines to break, you need to make it as easy on yourself as possible. And one way to make it easy on yourself is to hide away from the things that are going to be too challenging. Choose your battles carefully. Choose the battles you know you can win. And just hide away from the ones that are going to be too much hard work. So I hid away from loads. And by hiding away, I don't kind of mean cowering away in the corner. I mean looking after your needs in a way that's healthy for you. So for me, it was about planning things into my diary that were going to be nurturing and enjoyable for me. So for instance, when my boyfriend and our friends went up to the pub, or there was a gig or something that I'd said no to, I would choose something to watch on TV or a film that I could, and I would get all my treats for the evening. So I'd have my popcorn or my chocolate or whatever it was that I was treating myself with. And I would have something to look forward to. It might not be on the scale of when I was going out drinking. It might be a completely different, quieter and calmer looking forward to something. But it's important to give yourself treats and rewards along the way. It's important to hide away and nurture yourself in the hiding away. So for me, it was things like films. It was things like crawling into bed early with a book and a hot chocolate with fresh sheets and having had a hot bath with candles. You need to choose the things that are gonna be nurturing for you and that are gonna look after you in the best way possible. And it's a really good thing. I'm giving you permission here to look after yourself. It's a good thing for you to be looking after yourself. It's a good thing for you to be saying no to people. This is really important, because if you don't look after you, your health and your well-being, and you don't take the steps you need to take now to keep yourself safe and to keep yourself sober over Christmas and New Year, you're not doing yourself any favours in the long run. And if you're not doing yourself any favours in the long run, it means you're more at risk of slipping back. And when you slip back, you can't be there for all the people that you want to be there for. So although if you're the kind of person that's not used to saying no to people for all sorts of reasons, if you're that kind of person that doesn't want to say no to people because it feels awkward, it feels uncomfortable, it feels like you're letting them down, you're actually letting them down more by not looking after yourself and your own needs, by not protecting yourself. So it's really important, and this is your permission to do this. You look after yourself. You look after your own needs. You hide away when you need to hide away. You say no to the things you need to say no to. And part of saying no is practicing saying no. So for those of you who aren't used to saying no, it's really good to actually rehearse and practice. You can actually plan day to day the kinds of invitations you think might crop up for you during the day. You can actually plan those and you can rehearse what you're going to say. A really useful tip on saying no to impromptu and unexpected invitations is to buy yourself time. And you buy yourself time by saying, I'll get back to you on that later. Or, oh, I'll let you know later. And what I did that first Christmas sober, when I was faced with impromptu invitations and things like that, was I'd come up with reasons which I'd prepared in advance. So things like, oh, I've promised so-and-so that I'll go and do such and such with her. Or, oh, I'm not sure because I've got that and that to do this evening. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a buzz later and I'll get back to you. So you come up with a reason or an excuse that's going to fit your context, but the phrase that you need is, I'll get back to you later on that one, or something similar. And that gets you out of, it gives you the ability to say no to the situations that might jump at you unexpectedly. It's never a good idea to respond in the moment. It's always a good idea to buy yourself time, to give yourself time to reflect and to decide, is this something I think I want to challenge myself with? And to manage sober, can I prepare for that and get through it sober? Or is this something I want to hide away from for now? And in order to be able to have that conversation with yourself, you need to buy yourself the time to do it. So responding in the heat of the moment is never a good idea. Taking the time to think about it, reflect, and then get back to the person who's given you the invitation is a much better idea. So saying no to things, planning the things you're going to say yes to, giving yourself permission to hide away and look after your needs, nurture your health and well-being is important. And having some phrases at the ready with which to cope with impromptu and sudden invitations to buy yourself time to give the right answer and the best answer for you is really, really important. So I hope this has given you some useful ideas on how to approach Christmas and New Year in terms of protecting yourself and looking after your own needs. Remember that you're at a time in your life where you're making some pretty dramatic changes to your routines, your patterns and your habits. And this takes, at least in the early days, this takes some concentration and some conscious effort. And so it's really important you make things as easy on yourself as possible. And you do that by protecting yourself from all of those situations that might just prove too difficult or too challenging for you. For more of my stories on how I stopped drinking and how living life sober is so much better than I imagined it could possibly be, then you can subscribe to my channel. I'll look forward to catching up with you very soon, but in the meantime, let's go get sober together.